Hello and welcome to Buying and Beyond, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of retail buying. We're Kate and Linz, and together we have over 30 years experience in retail.
We'll be talking all things retail buying and beyond, so grab your drink of choice and come and have a giggle with us.
So hi!
Hi! Welcome back for another episode.
Another week, another episode. How has your week been?
My week has been hectic. I mean, we've just got so much on at the moment.
It's so busy, isn't it?
But it's really exciting. Really, really enjoying with it.
I think
all the
sometimes
projects we're juggling at the moment. And sometimes the juggle is what you need to do.
Exactly what I was going to say. And often, the more you're doing, the quicker time goes. And let's face it, this time of year, you just want it to move fast.
Mm-hmm.
Get me to summer.
Yeah.
So the busier you are, the quicker it goes.
Oh, yes. Looking forward to summer. But this time of the year is actually really nice, isn't it? Because it's sort of like you're starting to see the slight end of the tunnel for winter. Slight end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And then what you'll be doing in the summer.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Thinking ahead.
Exactly, thinking ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So today, let's talk about buyers and brands. We've had quite a few trade shows over the past few weeks, which is a great opportunity. I think most buyers get out or like to get out. I definitely love the idea of them often more than sometimes being there, dare I say.
Yeah, for sure.
But
when
I would
you
say,
sort of plan them into your critical path.
Yeah, and then you get to that point, you're like, oh my God, how am I going to be able to leave the office? And you're like, oh, but then you have such a fun time when you're there. Yeah,
and I do like that everyone's in one place, so you don't have to schedule in loads of meetings. You can do it all in one place.
Yeah, and some really great brands and some really lovely new product. And particularly Top Drawer, that's a fave.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Just because
of the new brands there, isn't there?
Yeah, and the setting as well. It just feels really big and open. And if you've got a sunny day and the sun shines in, it's lovely. And even if it's not, it's light and airy.
Yeah.
Compared to Spring Fair,
which is massive.
Is huge.
It's a bit of
and stuck in those four walls. And there's nowhere really to get some fresh air. Sometimes
you
need
four walls, mate. There's more like 4 times 20 halls.
There are 355 walls, but no outside, but no windows. No windows.
Exactly.
But and if you do want that little bit of fresh air, you all have to go into that little courtyard bit. You know, by that the eatery.
Oh yeah, in the middle. Yeah.
Is there a bit in the middle?
Isn't that the courtyard in the middle?
Is it in the middle?
It feels like it's.
I always think it's to the side.
Oh yeah, maybe it is. Yeah.
And I just go out there, get a little bit of fresh air, and then realise that someone's smoking next to me or something. And I'm like, oh, it's not so fresh.
Yeah.
And then in I go again, back round to the 355 walls all around me. Oh God, Frankfurt.
Oh wow.
When you've got travelators.
Yeah. You feel like the
airport. Though, don't you? Yeah. But trade shows in general are so much fun. In terms of meeting new people, but you do have to psych yourself up for it. Yeah. And as a buyer, what's your favourite thing about the trade show?
Well,
you mentioned about having lots of people.
Yeah, I mean, I love talking to people, don't I? I just love going around and chatting, and I think that's the best thing about being a buyer is building those relationships with your suppliers, and them just sort of preempting what you need and showing, getting excited about all the newness, etc. I think, just off on a tangent, trade shows for me in every role that I've worked in have always been a little bit too late. So I sometimes struggle to go to some of them because I think I don't have time for this and actually I've already done my buy. But I think once my team grew out a bit, it was easier for me just to go to them to sort of start thinking about the next season rather than the current season. But I think they're brilliant. They're really brilliant for businesses that buy on a tighter critical path.
Yeah. They can always be good for like a bit of OTB.
Yeah,
Something a bit more
exactly.
close to season when you've locked up a lot of money, but you've got a little bit left. You're not ready to spend it yet, but you might see something totally new that you've completely missed, you've not put into development, and it's great to be like, oh, do you know what? That'd be really great to bring on.
Yeah, exactly. And often buyers save that back for them, don't they? So they know, or they've already had a conversation with a couple of the brands that they want to bring on, and then it's just a chance to sort of touch base about the orders that you've already put in to place.
Yeah. Or to, as you say, see somebody like sort of face to face as well. You know, there's a lot of, oh God, absolute snowed under in emails, aren't we? I mean, the email culture at the moment is insane. So you're snowed under with emails, but it's a good opportunity to have a nice face to face in a bit more kind of a creative background, I guess. Like they've got their products there, and you can see a lot of people in a short space of time, which, let's face it, as buyers we love. Just think about trips, how many people you cram into such a short time. The like less amount of travel, the better. And when you're in somewhere like Springfair or Top Drawer, it's just from stand to stand.
Rather than from car to factory to different province. Yeah, exactly. No, I think what I love about them is just seeing all that creativity under one roof. I think it's like really buzzy and exciting, and just going and scouting and trying to find new things and picking up on all the trends, because it's a really good place to go and spot trends, seeing what everybody's buying into, what everybody's developing. Just seeing how brands are evolving as well. Like you can always tell by the makeup of their stands, what they're doing, and also who else they're working with. As much as everybody's always sort of a bit keeping their cards close to their chest, who have you just spoken to? Oh, there's buyer from so and so just been on the stand. It's actually just really quite interesting, isn't it? Finding out like how they're doing and you know, the different collaborations they're working on with different people, and I always like so creative.
I always like to try and eye up people's badges.
Oh yes.
And I'm always be like, oh, maybe I need glasses because I can't quite make out what that is. But I'm such a nosy Parker. Like I love to sit there and like nose and be like, oh, I wonder who's on that stand. Where are they from?
Yeah. Got it.
But I always think people are doing the same, so I'm always a bit like this.
Turn around.
I don't know who I am.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, so when you find a stand and then we're walking onto it, do you like it? Because there's different people, isn't it? Different types of people. Do you like it that if you're looking at something, someone's automatically like, hi, so, and jumps into a spiel about them, their brand and what they do? Or do you like it if someone's like, hi, just let me know if you need anything? Like, what do you think is the best kind of like tact for a small brand?
It's a different horses for different courses, really.
Attract a buyer.
I think no one really likes an eager beaver.
Too
eager, too keen. What do they say? Desperation smells?
Oh.
But you don't want to mistake that for passion, because I do actually quite like being chatted around the stand and pointed out all the you know, brilliant new stuff they've done. But I like them to come to me from a product knowledge point of view, not trying to hard sell me, just sort of like really talking about the product, you know, because that's what you're there for. New product, it's all about the product. Let's not try and find out too much about me. Just walk around and show me everything you've got, because I know what I'm looking for. I know what my strategy is. I know the kind of key value points that I'm looking for. There's no point me telling you those first and then watch you try and merge
be
that
like, oh, well,
in.
you might like
this.
Exactly. Or what? And you're like, no, I've done that before, or no, I've already got that in the range, or I've got, you know, I've got that covered, or that's not the right colour for me, or no, that's completely the wrong customer.
So I would rather you just walked me around your range, told me everything about your products, and what you do and what you stand for, and then we can have a conversation about what I'm looking for, and then that way it's an organic matchmaking process.
It flows much better,
rather than it feel like you're just selling. You're just trying to
make a quick sale.
Yeah, exactly. Because again, long-term partnership is what it's all about. You don't want to be in a retailer for 2 minutes. All that red tape you've gone through to get in there, you want to stay in there.
Yeah.
So you want the right products in there first, and you don't want all your products in there first. You just want the right ones, and then you're building upon that.
To prove yourself. Because I think, as we've sort of maybe said before, like, it is about long-term relationships. Like that is the most valuable thing to do, is to start small and to grow it and nurture it and naturally, and get used to the retailer, get used to kind of their quirks and sort of what works and what doesn't for them, because then you can like really bounce off each other, and you ultimately both have the same end goal, to make sales. You want your product to work, they want your product to work, and because you don't want to see your product in markdown. Like, so if they buy too much, you hard sell too much, they take on too much, that doesn't look good for anybody. It's not good for them. They may even come to you to ask for some sort of support in markdown, but also it doesn't look very good if your product's in markdown. Like, it devalues you. So you want to make sure that you're kind of building it up gradually and getting to know each other and having that longevity, rather than them buying a big ton of stock, getting it in, you've had a great first order, you've gone on holiday to the Caribbean because woo. And then you've come back and
as a buyer, I wish you got those kind of bonuses.
Well, you'll identify more with this then, because then you come back and you have to eat baked beans out of a tin for the next week. Probably something you are a little bit more accustomed to as a buyer
when you start out as well. Yeah, I'm sure.
So it's definitely about like cultivating that relationship. And when you meet a new brand in business and you come across their stand, and as you said, like, rather than sort of standing back, you'd rather them sort of like introduce themselves. Because I don't know about you, I often find that if I go onto a stand and I'm sort of half, if they don't say anything, I just look at their stuff, nod and walk on. Yeah. Whereas if I'm half and they go, hi, and tell me about their product, then I'll be like, oh, that's really interesting actually. And told me something that I didn't know. Oh, it comes like this, does it? Oh, you can take it apart. Oh, you can and it comes with a gift bag too. Yeah, exactly. Oh, interesting. Or if they go, you're walking past and they say, hi, and you're like, oh, hi, and they go, so where are you from? What do you do? I find that quite like, oh, abrupt. Like, that's, for me, I'm a bit like, oh, no. I'm like, oh, okay, and I'll tell them. Yeah. But I'll probably then just sort of, and they're like, oh, what are you looking for? And it's like, I've come to a trade show without one thing in mind. I've come here to look at everything. I just find that isn't the easiest conversation starter. What are you looking for? It's like, well, I'm looking around, actually. Yeah. So I think the best thing, as you say, is like to come in with a bit of a spiel. And then once you've kind of, my question was going to be, once you kind of come in and you've like met a new brand and you've liked what they've got and they've scanned your badge and you've taken like leaflets or whatever, how quickly do you need or want them to message you? But also, how soon are you likely to reply?
So, really good question. Sounds really patronising, doesn't it? Great question.
I've got a bit of an idea of what I think. I just think it's a really interesting one. And I think it's also,
how long is the follow-up time?
Yeah, what should you good one
to not be a pest?
Yeah, to understand the expectations, and also to know that as a small business, what a buyer would appreciate and maybe not appreciate so much.
For me, I think I would appreciate a really personalised response. So often you get like a really, really obvious generic response that they've sent to everybody.
Thanks for getting in touch.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
I guess it confirms the email's correct.
It really depends on whether that product is really, 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 really right for what you're looking for as well, because I might reach out to them when I get back rather than them reach out to me, because often lots of brands obviously have so much to do after the trade shows. Yeah. But if they are wanting to get a quick response from me, I think it would be like, oh, send me an email saying it was lovely to chat to you on the stand. Pick up on a point that I said to them that I know that they're not going to have said to everybody else. And also don't send me a War and Peace email. Please do not send me a War and Peace email, because I'm not going to read it.
You're not going to have time.
I'm just not going to read it. I think it's sort of to the point, attach the information that I'd asked for and scheduling a follow-up call with me. And then that is it. Like, that's all I want to see. And then I'm most likely to get back to that response.
Okay. And if you don't get back to it, when should they follow up? Obviously, this is really personal
this
to
is
you,
so personal.
and this could be so different to to anyone, couldn't it? Like
Yeah,
different
absolutely.
buyers, different folks, different strokes, don't they say?
Absolutely.
But as a kind of general, I'd be interested to hear what you say, because if I identify with it, like that's at least two. Count of two.
I think I think what's actually really important to find out from me on the stand is, when am I signing off? So when I'm signing my products off, that you need to have got a response back from me by then. Otherwise it's too late. I'm not going to buy anything. Obviously it's really dependent on whether, like you say, you've got OTB or you can bring something in within season. So I think make sure you chase me up before that.
Yeah. And maybe have an understanding of, if I'm looking at your product, what am I looking at it for? Am I looking at it for trading the current season? Am I looking for it for my next wave of buy? Or actually, if I already bought that, or am I looking at it for the next season after that? Because that already gives you a bit of an idea of when it might be. So this season, we've got a lot more guests that are brands, and some of them are buyers that have started brands. Some of them are just, great brands that we found at trade shows. We just thought it was really interesting to kind of join buyers and brands together, because we need to be a lot more collaborative. We use that word a lot, but we just think we need to be a lot more collaborative, don't we? And what are their sort of growth plans? What are their sort of like hope and expectations with their brand? Like, how do they see, what are their goals for the year? Where do they see themselves growing? Like, what's their trajectory? Do they want to get into a big retailer? Because although there are a lot of them at trade shows, some actually are only interested in kind of actually more of the kind of boutique markets rather than the large retailers.
Like,
and
more volume than larger orders. Volume of doors, they say. How many doors do you have?
And sometimes I think they can feel quite intimidated, or at least a couple that we've spoken to are like, I don't want to be in a large retailer actually. And I just think that's really interesting. Like, do you want to be in a large retailer, and if so, why? And if you don't, like, why not? And I think then it's really interesting to also know sort of like, who do they approach? Like, how do they identify like the right retailers? Like, how do they do their market research? Is it similar to the way a large retailer would do it? And who's their target customer? Like, how do they identify it? And if they do want to get into a large retailer, what are their expectations of a large retailer, and like account management and things like that? And I think it can, as much as it can be hard for a brand to get into a retailer, it can be hard on the other side for a retailer to find a new brand. Like, the number of times you're just like, I just want some new product, I need something fresh for my range. Like, sometimes you can do it if you're an own brand. You do your own sort of design briefs and you can send that out and you can do it under your own name. But what if you don't have the expertise in that product category or the confidence to do it? You want to test it. You don't have a factory that can do it. Or that actually there's a brand that, as a brand, they know it inside out and they can do it really well. Or you don't do own brand, and actually you just want a branded option that's just going to sit really well and do it really well, and you don't have to do all the legwork. Like,
we used to call them anchor brands. So if we were starting a new category, own brand, you wouldn't just do own brand. You need an anchor brand in there to say, yes, we're a retailer of X category and we do this category well because we've got that anchor brand in there, and then you can do your own brand around it. So a customer will trust you know what you're doing because they'll understand and they'll see that brand and they'll know it. Because I think sometimes brands can get a bit nervous when we say, oh, we'll test the water with you. And they just think, right, so you're going to take my product and
put it into your store and then see the success and then, do a small order and then see the success and then take that order, go off and do it yourself. But that's not the case.
No, definitely not.
In so many situations,
because you can't replicate the brand. You can't replicate the branding.
No, exactly, and what they stand for.
And the loyalty and all everything that brand's worked hard to build up. You're never going to replicate that.
And I think if you're a credible buyer And if you've got any kind of morals, then that's not the kind of thing that you would do anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
And so I think that's almost like one of those like old wives' tales or like scare stories type thing. You know, it's a fear, but I don't think it should be justified. Definitely need to like be more careful of things like Shein.
Yeah.
Dare I utter the word?
Yeah.
But they are renowned for like taking small businesses and small brands products. And
exactly.
I swear it's almost like every day. I feel like I'm probably exaggerating. It's not every day.
Shein is like us going backwards.
Oh, definitely.
Not forwards.
Definitely.
You know.
I feel they're constantly ripping people off and like really talented designers.
Yeah. And product that's often not tested. I think that's the biggest fear.
Oh.
You know?
Yeah.
It's what product are we putting in our marketplace?
Yeah.
That's not
the chemicals and things like that. The kind of the dyes that aren't safe.
That is a massive tangent, isn't it, that we could go off into?
It is. So if we bring back to it, like, you know, if we think about how do we find these brands though? So we've got trade shows. Would you find people on LinkedIn? Do you know what I used to do sometimes? I used to, particularly if I was doing like seasonal and gifting, when that was sort of an emerging sort of area, at Christmas it'd be great. I'd go and I'd look on the back of packaging.
Oh yeah, same. Yeah, 100%.
And find out like, okay, who is that brand?
Yeah. And
then I'd look them up.
Yeah, I'd do exactly the same. You know, when you're out, and there's some really amazing concept stores, isn't there? Like there's one really great one in your high street, and they always like have beautiful brands in there, and they're great ones for when you're working for a large retailer to go and see who they're sourcing and who they're working with. I would often do that actually. I think I preferred that than going to trade shows, because it was almost like a little bit more like I had a handle in it, you know, like, and it's more of an endurable experience, if I'm honest.
It's a bit calmer.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But sometimes what you can't see then that you can see in a trade show is the rest of the products that they can offer.
Yeah, and they're set up.
Yeah, because sometimes it may be that they work with that retailer, and sometimes, especially when you go to like concept stores, they don't necessarily have the same overheads as a large retailer, so they can take one product from there, another product from there. It's a bit more pick and mix, can't it? And then you're like, I love that, I want to list that. Oh, but they need to have at least another 10 items that I can,
pro forma is the biggest hurdle.
It's such a blocker, isn't it?
It is such a blocker. But I understand why small brands need to do it. Like, I think as a buyer for a large retailer, I would often find suppliers I really wanted to bring in and test. And under some managements, they were really really behind that, and they would sort of really like push finance to sign it off. But you know, it's a really, really hard market at the moment, and businesses rely on cash, and they don't have the credit to allow pro forma. Yeah. So it's really hard for small brands to get into large retailers.
Because unless
they are cash rich.
Exactly what I was going to say. Unless they're cash rich, and that's the thing. Like it's constantly churning the product. They're almost spending beyond their means, which is something that consumers these days are doing. You know, like everyone spends, unfortunately, like way beyond their means, and then you get yourself into a right little tricky spot, which is what so many retailers have done. Which is then actually, if something doesn't go your way and quite how you'd planned or budgeted for, you are really in the sticky stuff. Yeah. So you kind of have to have these retail terms, because otherwise you're just going to fall over. Yeah. For sure. But some of those retail terms can be really, really tough, like really hard. Like I remember I used to just churn it out when I was a BA. I'd be like, you know, you bring on a new supplier, and I'd be like the one emailing me like, oh, you know, the buyer's decided to take a product. Like, that's great. Please find attached like T's and C's if you could let me know check them, and our payment terms are 4% 90 days. Thank you, goodbye. And I just knew it was just 4% 90 days, and it was just drilled into me 4% 90 days. And it wasn't until a bit later down the line that I really thought about it, and I was like, I'm sorry. So what we're saying is we're going to place an order. We want them to make it. We want them to then ship it. We'll then accept it into us. And once we've got it, we're going to wait 90 days.
We're going to sell it.
And around those 3 months while we're selling the product, we will then send you an invoice to pay you, whatever. We'll pay you. You'll send an invoice and we'll pay you. And if we pay you within that 3 month period, after you've shipped it for 6 weeks and produced it for another.
Yeah.
Then, and bought all the raw materials, etc. So about a year later, say, if we manage to do that, we'll try our hardest. We're actually going to congratulate ourselves for doing it, and we're going to take 4%
off you.
It's madness when you think about it like that, isn't it?
But I think it's also baffling. It's always been baffling to me that retailers ask for that, because they're just putting it in their cost prices. No, we're not stupid. We're not stupid. It's I just don't...
Just buffer it up. But I guess you're just catching out all the new guys, aren't you? Which isn't fair. You're just tricking up the new ones.
And the new store opening contributions. They were...
Who doesn't love a VBA?
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? I think, as we've always said, we need to help each other grow. And we do, really help brands to grow by putting them in large retailers. It gives them amazing amounts of exposure. There's so much that's benefited for those brands for being in there, and the business they then get off the back of that. They do need to pay for that.
Definitely, I'd agree. I think the payment terms are tough and they can be quite harsh, but actually you need to keep this big ship moving.
It's a balance, isn't it?
And you're right, in terms of new store openings, you're getting more marketing. It's free marketing because the retailer is taking all of the costs of that store. So you need to put a little bit in to be able to support increasing your customer footfall. There needs to be some support towards marketing. If you make it big, why? It's nothing in this world is free. And you're being put on a platform and being shown to numerous people and building your brand. And so often your customers will not only buy through your retailer that you're stocked in, which then can grow, because as we've said, we go around and we're like, oh, who's that? Oh, I'd like to list them. A brand then, it's catching. You'll then be in other places, but also they'll go direct to your own website as well. They cut out the middleman. And when you then really become a household brand name, it's not necessarily about the retailer that you're in.
No.
The customer's looking for you. They're seeking you out and they'll buy you anywhere.
Exactly.
They just want your product.
It's brand building, isn't it?
It's brand building.
It's your investment for the future.
Exactly. But what do you do then if they are not, say, retail ready, but they've got some great products
and really promising?
How do you work with them? There's an element of wanting to kind of nurture them, isn't there? And being able to say, well, I built that brand up, or
I used to love that side of it, actually, seeing them really succeed and go off. And we spoke to a friend as well, didn't we, that used to do that for ASOS, Wishful Beauty. It is really, 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 really hard, isn't it? If those are the terms and those are the current financial situation of the business, then there's nothing really you can do about it. You just have to keep them warm and say, we'll try again in the new year. We'll bring you in when we can. We'll do a little test with you. We'll, we really love your product. Keep going. Keep. I mean, like you said, a good buyer will sort of still stay in touch and, sort of keep that relationship warm, keep that relationship going, and say, we really, really do want to get you in, and we will keep trying, and
and it's definitely worth brands finding out from buyers at the earliest opportunity what being listed with them means.
Entails, before you go down and do all that legwork and
and it's better for both sides, really, because otherwise you're thinking you're cashing in and already ahead. You're like, I don't know, X whatever retailer just came to my stand, cha-ching. I don't even need to speak to another person that comes to my stand because they just came.
Let's finish a day early. Get off our feet.
I'm going to go and get some cake, actually, and just celebrate.
Some champagne.
But until you're actually in...
Do they do that, or is it only in Paris? They don't do that in the UK, do they?
What?
Champagne at the end of the trade show.
Spring Fair, I'm pretty sure they're out having champagne every night.
It might not be champagne, but depends on how it's gone.
Prosecco, Cava, Lambrini.
Oh my God, Lambrini.
I shiver at the thought. Anyway, so definitely finding out what is needed
is really, really, really important.
And then, how do you like a buyer? And then how do you like a brand to approach you?
How do I like
and how would you want to be shown kind of like their offer, and what are your expectations of a brand when they come to pitch, I guess, is my main question.
Some really great tips on this on our course. I think the most important thing for me is, as I've said before, no War and Peace emails, please. Some real short, sweet, to the point communication on that front. Try and get a meeting in, because I much prefer to chat. I don't want to send numerous emails back and forth and see your whole product range. Loads of suppliers want to send you everything they own, just in case there's one product in there that catches your eye. It's not going to catch my eye. I'm not going to look at any of it.
You know? If it's too much, it's too overwhelming. I just can't
exactly.
deal.
And just like seeing that a supplier's got a real understanding of who you are and what your handwriting is, what your product department stands for, how they sit nicely with other brands, not brand bashing, which a lot of brands do.
Brand bashing.
They do bash.
Yeah. What do you do well, not what do you do better than somebody else. Totally agree.
So I think there's loads of things, and again it's really personal, isn't it? But yeah, I think those are my top tips. Yeah.
But as you said, we've got a whole course in it, so there's so much more of it that you can find. But I think that's
some really nice.
So hopefully that's been really helpful, and also just explains kind of like how we see this podcast going, what we want to talk about. As ever, we are always open to feedback. Feedback's a gift. Please let us know what you'd like to hear about. But other topics we're excited to have more brands joining us, and as ever, can't wait to speak with more buyers as well. Yes. So what does a buyer want?
And if you're a buyer that would love to come on and talk, really welcome anybody in the industry wanting to come on and talk. And obviously, we don't have to talk about the brand you work for. Like it's really as anonymous as you want it to be.
Great.
Anyway, thanks guys.
See you next week.
Bye.
If you've enjoyed listening to this episode, please, please, please like and subscribe and leave a review. And if you already have, thank you, thank you, thank you. We all need a bit of retail therapy, and this is the perfect time for you to offload about that super cringeworthy story. We would love to hear from you all, your funny stories and experiences, or even any dilemmas. And maybe we can help, or at least find someone who can. And don't worry, we will keep these anonymous and remove any names and brands. We would also love to hear from you on any topics you would like us to talk about. Please send all of these into buyingandbeyond@gmail.com or drop us a DM via our Instagram page @buyingandbeyond. Kate, are you a drama queen?
No.
Drama just makes things interesting.
That's true.
All these thoughts and opinions are our own and based on our own experiences working for a wide variety of retailers. These are all in the hope to entertain and educate, and not to reflect negatively on any place we currently or have previously worked.